Hi everyone, I'm Pam Fox at pamfox.org. Welcome back for those of you that are doing the 28-day Planti Reflex challenge. Planti Reflex is my cookbook. It's called Planti Reflex because it's a plant-based diet. All of the recipes are plant-based and they eliminate common triggers for reflux. And today I'm streaming live on YouTube into the Planti Reflex support group on Facebook. If you haven't joined that already, you can request to join on Facebook. And on the Facebook page, there's a files section, and it's got several of the things from the book. So even if you don't have the book, you can join us here. Join the group, join us here. I come in every week and do a new recipe, or you can go back and watch some of the old videos that are posted both on YouTube and in the Planti Reflex Facebook group. So yeah, take the challenge if you have reflux and you'd like to see what a plant-based diet might or might not do for your health, do for healing of your digestive system. Take the 28-day challenge, being plant-based, that eliminates common trigger foods. So today I'm going to be making sushi, and I actually already started. And I know I've already made this recipe before out of the cookbook, but it's a hot day. And sushi is one of the things I eat a lot in the summer because it's a cold food. I can make it and I work from home, so I can kind of snack on it throughout the day. I can pack it in something like this and take it with me if I'm going on a hike or something like that. And tomorrow I think I'm going on a hike, so I'm going to eat some of this and I'm going to pack some of this for later. Now, I know in the cookbook this recipe calls for, it's supposed to make 6 of these sushi wraps, and usually I do get 6 out of it, but I've been making sushi so frequently that I'm getting really good at wrapping it up. And so when you first start making sushi, it feels really cumbersome and awkward and hard, but then like anything, as you get better at it, it's really simple. And so when I make sushi now, it's pretty simple. I don't even use a sushi mat. I put everything in, I roll it, I slice it, I eat it. And as a consequence of that, I've been putting in more stuff because it's easier to kind of manage with less stuff in it. So long story short, this recipe calls for 2 cups of dry rice, and in the cookbook it says it makes 6 sushi rolls, which you can do. I'm really down to 4 or 5 just because I pack so much stuff in it, and you'll see that here in a minute. I already made 2, so I'm going to go ahead, and I've already prepared everything today. I don't usually do that. I usually do everything live for you guys, but I want to get into today's topic. So we're going to quickly throw these together. I already have my rice made, and I already have it cooled. I'm using the Eden Organic Sushi Wraps today, Nori Wraps today, roasted. So this rice, in the recipe, I think it calls for a teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon of sugar. You don't have to put that in. You can just use, especially if you're using a short grain sticky rice, you can just use plain old rice. Typically, sushi rice has sugar and salt and rice vinegar in it. That's what typically is in sushi rice or sticky rice. So for people with reflux, you can eliminate the vinegar. You can even eliminate the sugar if you want to, and you won't even notice it's gone. So what you want to do is really spread. I'm using a rice paddle, and you want to kind of spread it, make sure it gets out even and to the edges. I'll show you guys what that looks like up close in a second. It's not perfect, but it works. And then I've already got some sliced English cucumber here. I usually just do a handful of those. And in the cookbook, it calls for blanched carrots. I've been lately, just because I'm lazy, I love these they're like little matchsticks. They're not shredded. And it just adds a nice little crunch to your sushi. And then avocado, and that's it. I already have an avocado, a really beautiful avocado sliced up here. And then sesame seeds. So today I have 2 kinds of sesame seeds. I've got an organic, just a regular roasted sesame seed, and then these are a black sesame seed. So you just want to put a little bit of those on there. And then roll it. So you just want to wrap the edge over. kind of get in there and squeeze it, which kind of pushes it together and squishes it all in there nice and tight. And then roll it. And I have a little jar of water here. If you get your edge wet, it's going to make it really kind of just stick to itself. And that's it. And that's it. And you could eat this like a burrito, or you could slice it up, which is what we're going to do. And I'm going to go ahead. And I'll show you that. And taste test. Let's see. How about? All right, let's do one more. Hope everybody's doing well. I actually just got home from California. I've been in California for the last week. That's why I didn't do a live cooking demonstration this past week. I was in California. My son finally married. He's been dating the most wonderful woman now for, gosh, I don't even know. I think it's been about close to 5 years. I don't know. I'd have to do the math and think about it, but you guys, I just don't even know how I got so lucky. She's just a lovely, lovely, lovely woman. But yeah, they got married. They had planned a big wedding, and then COVID came along, of course, and they postponed their wedding. They were just going to have it next year, and then they decided, let's go ahead and just do it. They could only, they had limited, restrictions, guests, and all of that. So, but it ended up just being an amazing, beautiful ceremony, and I just feel so honored that I got to go down and be a part of it. But that's why I was gone this week. So yeah, if you guys make these, try it with these little raw carrots. It's really good. I've got a really good avocado today, which really, in my opinion, makes the sushi. That little bit of avocado in there. So don't go away. We're going to talk about shopping here in a minute. We're going to talk about a little bit about labels and ingredients and some of my tips and tricks, and just, I guess they're not really tips and tricks, just some of the things that I do. All right, so we roll it. So yeah, I would say if you guys are going to do this, if you're doing 2 cups of dry rice, you're really going to get, I got 5 out of this because I made a couple before we got started. You have to really spread the rice thin in order to get 6. But the better you get, the more kind of packed you can pack these little suckers in, and then you don't, and then you can put more in it, which is nice because, I don't know, more food, right? That one fell apart. Sometimes the ends fall apart. It's so good. Delish. All right, so what I like to do, now I want to say, this is really important. If you're wondering if these are good the next day, they really are. They're just as good, if not better, the next day. There's no fish in these, so you can just, I'll put this in the refrigerator and I'll have it for my hike tomorrow, and they'll be so good. And these I'm going to eat. That's it. So real simple, really delicious, really nutritious, and void of common trigger ingredients for reflux. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're going to turn to chapter, I think it was 12 or is it 13? Hang on a second. In my book, Plantar Reflux, chapter 14, excuse me, entitled, What About a Shopping List? And so in the Plantar Reflux Facebook group, there's some free files. In the file section, there's the shopping list, which is all the ingredients you need to do the recipes in the cookbook, and some of my basic staples that I use, plant-based eater. There's the common trigger foods list in the files, my favorite appliances, and one other thing, I can't remember what. I think the approved foods list is in there as well. So what about a shopping list? So first of all, remember that when it comes to what you can tolerate and what somebody else can tolerate, it could look entirely different. Just because there's the common trigger foods for reflux doesn't mean that applies to everybody all the time. So you really have to kind of experiment and trial and error and keep a list and figure out what foods can I tolerate, what foods can't I tolerate. And some of the foods you may be unable to tolerate because of reflux, and others you may be unable to tolerate because of allergies, and others you may be unable to tolerate because of gastric conditions, right? Like if you have IBS or gastritis, something like that. And a lot of these foods do kind of overlap, or in other words, they're kind of the same lists. So that's good, but you need to figure out what you can tolerate, what you can't tolerate. But it's important, obviously, to read labels. So that's the first thing is when you're shopping, trying a plant-based challenge, and it's new to you. Obviously, if you stay in the produce department, you're probably going to be okay. But some things you want to watch your labels. Like I know I've bought certain things and got them home and then looked at the label and went, oh, there's cheese in this. What the heck? Why is there cheese in this? Or hidden dairy or hidden eggs or something like that. So you want to read your labels, and typically when you look at your ingredients list, what you're looking for is you're not necessarily looking at usually we look at the calories and the salt and the sugar and all that kind of thing. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at, you want to find the ingredients. So this is organic nori seaweed. That's it, one ingredient, which is great. That's an A+ in terms of any packaged food. One ingredient, that's great. 2 ingredients, that's great. 3 ingredients, pretty good. It's when you start getting into these long lists. I mean, sometimes I won't buy things just because of the long list of ingredients, even if it is plant-based. Try to keep it as simple as possible, because when you start eating things with gastric conditions, with all this long list of ingredients, you're not going to know, and then you're bothered by that. You're not going to know specifically what was in that food that really triggered you, if there's 400 things in the ingredients. So you want to keep it as simple as possible, but you want to look to that ingredients, and you want to look for, like usually at the very end, if there's any type of common allergens in there, if there's any meat, dairy, or if there's any dairy or eggs in there, if there's any nuts in there, if there's any soy, if there's egg, that kind of thing, it puts that at the bottom of the ingredients. So anyway, in other words, the common food allergens, the common, if it has gluten in it, it'll list that. If it has eggs, soy, it'll list those things. So you want to look for the, make sure it doesn't have whatever it is you're trying to avoid. In the plant-based diet, you're avoiding eggs, you're avoiding dairy, you're avoiding meat, obviously, but they're not going to sneak meat in there usually. I haven't had that problem, but so you want to read your labels. If you're trying to stick strictly to plant-based to see how a plant-based diet can affect your health, make sure you read your labels. Look for limited ingredients and look for that. And if you're trying to avoid soy, look for that as well. I don't avoid soy, but so I know some people are allergic to it. My son is allergic to it. So, or gluten, if you're trying to avoid gluten. So really read your labels and look for those under the ingredients list. And then moving on from that, you want to eat as much ripe, fresh fruit as you can tolerate, just because they're filled with so much nutrition. So when you're trying a plant-based diet specifically to see how the healing, beneficial properties, what's going to happen to my health if I try a plant-based diet. If you're trying the diet for those purposes, you want to eat as much fruit as possible, because fruit is rich in fiber and water and vitamins and minerals and natural sugar to give you energy so you feel good, right? You might have more energy than usual on a plant-based diet, which means you might be more likely to do more things, which is going to increase the quality of your life, like if you get out and take a walk or whatever. So I really encourage you to eat as much ripe, fresh, organic can fruit as you can tolerate. And we've talked about this before, but the other reason it's so important is because for people with gastric conditions, it's really going to help you with regularity. And so if you're backed up, if you have constipation, if you have to bear down in order to pass a bowel movement, all of these things affect reflux, right? If you're backed up and you're bloated, that can cause reflux. If you're having to bear down to pass a bowel movement, that pushes your stomach against your diaphragm and can open up your LES and cause reflux. So you want to be doing everything you possibly can, whatever that looks like for you, and eating lots of fruit is the number one recommendation, and staying hydrated. But for the person who eats a lot of fruit, they're going to be more naturally hydrated because they're eating lots of fruit, which is rich in water. That's not to say you don't have to drink water if you're just eating a lot of fruit. You can still drink water, but so eat lots of fruit. And when you do your shopping, bring home plenty of fruit. And in this shopping list, it's just got the fruit that's in these recipes. But I would really encourage you, if you're not a fruit person or if you are a fruit person, to really start exploring more fruits, maybe in the tropical fruit section, maybe in different sections that you haven't explored before. I know it's a hit or miss. Sometimes you bring home these tropical fruits and they're awful because they're not ripe yet or for whatever reason. But yeah, really explore with fruits and always have fruits on hand. Always have plenty of fruit on hand so that if you do, need a snack in the evening, or if, you're feeling like, you're done with dinner, but you don't want to have seconds because you don't want to overeat, you can have an apple or you can have a mango or you can have a banana. So always have plenty of fruit on hand. Okay? And those big fruit smoothies that we talk about in the cookbook, like the Three's Company smoothie, that's a great one as well. Have it every day to help you with regularity. Lots of bananas. So let's talk a little bit about nuts and seeds. They're a wonderful source of fat, obviously, healthy fat, but they're also one of those things, not a common trigger for reflux, but some people can't tolerate them. So again, you have to figure out if you can tolerate nuts and seeds or not. But nuts and seeds are another very, very vital and nutritious part of your diet, or they can be, because there's so much good nutrition in those nuts and seeds. I personally like to keep a variety of nuts and seeds on hand, and I keep them in the refrigerator or the freezer so that I can grab a handful of cashews to make my cheese sauce, or I can grab a handful of sunflower seeds to throw into a salad or on top of a soup, or in my smoothie I might do walnuts, I might do Brazil nuts, I might do hemp seed, I might do chia seed. So I keep all of these, a variety of these on hand, and I go through them regularly. I try to get a little bit of nuts and seeds every day. So right now I've got some sesame seed in my sushi. And again, I keep these in the freezer. They'll last much, much longer. Nuts and seeds do go rancid. They have oil, they have fat naturally occurring in them, and they can turn. So you want to keep them cold if you can. So in the cookbook, I've got in here, first of all, bananas. Spotted is best. They're the easiest to digest. So if you're using bananas for your smoothie, it really is important that they're ripe and spotted bananas to help you with digestion. The greener the banana, the more constipating they can be, and that's something we're trying to avoid and remedy. So if you're just eating a banana for a snack and you don't like those yellow spotted extra ripe bananas, that's fine. Eat the nice bright yellow bananas. But if it's got any green on it, try to avoid it if you have an issue with constipation. Dates is another thing that I think is great to have bananas and dates always on hand, because you can whip them up in my hot date or my cold date smoothie. And again, they're so rich in nutrition. Dates are. They're so rich in nutrition, minerals, fiber, natural sugar to give you energy. And if you love dates, you can just eat them as a snack. But I like to make a smoothie or a juice out of them. And then they're great as a natural sweetener, like if you're expanding into any type of baking. And then berries. So strawberries are more on the acidic side, so we do avoid those on this diet. Some of you can tolerate them, and that's fine. Blueberries usually do pretty well. So that's can be kind of a staple, and you can throw them in your oatmeal, you can throw them in your smoothie, you can throw them in your pancakes or your muffins, or you can just eat them. I love to eat fresh blueberries and milk. I just pour soy milk on top of my berries and eat them, and it's one of my favorite things. I also love mangoes. Mango is personally my very favorite fruit. And when you get a good, ripe, perfect mango, it really can't be beat. And they're on the alkaline side, so they're safe if you've got reflux. If you like avocado, if you like mango, just really enjoy those while they're in season because they're wonderful. And if you get one that's kind of stringy, just peel it, chop it up, put it in your blender, make a puree, and top it on top of your oatmeal. Just eat it as a puree, and it'll be delicious because it'll have that nice sweetness and creaminess to it. But sometimes mangoes have that kind of stringy texture to them, and they're not as fun to eat. So just blend them up. And then papaya as well. So papaya is great. You guys have probably heard about it. Papaya is rich in a digestive enzyme that can really help you with digestive issues. So a lot of people swear by papaya really helping them like settle their stomach if they're having a flare up with something like gastritis and that kind of a thing. So papaya is great. Melons are great, rich in water, rich, again, natural sugars, lots of vitamins and minerals. And fiber. So find the melons that you like, and when they're in season, just enjoy the heck out of them. Just eat them. And then I've also got avocado in here. Technically, avocado is a fruit. It is a fruit that's high in natural fat, and it is very, very nutritious. So if you can tolerate avocado, particularly if you go into that category of people who have a hard time putting on weight or maintaining weight, and you like avocados, start eating an avocado every day. Put them in your smoothie. Put them in your Three's Company smoothie. It'll make it super creamy. Make guacamole. Dip your vegetables in it. Smash it on a piece of whole grain toast. Some sea salt. Avocado. If you like avocado and you're trying to put on weight, you're lucky because you can have an avocado every day and just enjoy those avocados. And then finally, I just put your favorite fruit. So these are the fruits that I have listed in the shopping list in the Facebook group. But figure out what fruits you love and eat those fruits. And then let's move on to vegetables. So potatoes, I love Yukon potatoes, but there's golds, there's reds, there's purples, there's russets. There's several potato recipes in this cookbook, and potatoes are probably the most filling food that you can eat. They're filled with nutrition. I do recommend that you get organic if you can. If not, scrub them really good. My tip for potatoes, I have an Instant Pot. You don't have to have an Instant Pot to do this. You could do it on the stovetop. But as I buy the organic, like a small bag of organic potatoes, and I put the whole thing in the Instant Pot with a little bit of water, and I cook it for about 5 minutes, which just kind of undercooks them. And then I put them in a bowl, stick them in the refrigerator, and I've got them ready to go to make my potato hash, to make some of these different potato recipes throughout the book, and they're already partially cooked. And when you pre-cook the potatoes and then recook them for the dish that you're eating, they're extra creamy. They're really, really good. In fact, you could pull one out, put it in your steamer, reheat it, and just eat it like a muffin. They're just really moist, and the texture and the starches in there really kind of, I don't know, they condense and get really creamy and delicious. So that's my tip if you like potatoes and you like to eat a lot of potatoes, is to cook a whole bag of them every week and just have them ready for some of these different dishes that you like that include potatoes. But potatoes are they're healthy, beneficial, filling, so filling. And they're a very, very safe food for people with reflux. Now, you might be saying, I can't tolerate potatoes. I don't know what you're talking about. Very, very typically, they're highly tolerable for people with reflux. However, if you're loading up that potato with sour cream and butter and bacon bits and chili or whatever, sriracha, these are all trigger foods. So you need to figure out recipes that eliminate those triggers. And I have several of them in the cookbook. I did some different ethnicities, like more of a Mexican potato and a Greek potato and a Italian potato, so with toppings on top of them. So, and those are great for wintertime. I haven't been doing those particular potatoes in the last several weeks because it's been hot. So, but in the winter, I love a variety of potatoes. So, celery. Celery is great as well for the person really suffering with reflux, but also for the person suffering with illness. And I'm sure a lot of you have already heard about the trends with celery juice, and a lot of people ask me, what do you think about these trends with celery juice? And what I think about it is I think it's great. I think it's great. There are a lot of people that have really been helped by juicing and drinking celery juice every day. I tried it for a week and I didn't really notice any different, but I feel great all the time anyway. So I thought I might notice like a difference in my skin or something, but I've got pretty clear and healthy skin as it is. So I didn't really notice a difference. And the thing about juicing celery is it is expensive. It needs to be organic. That's really important if you're putting celery through that juicer and it's got any pesticide residue on there, chemicals, you want to avoid that because you're trying to put alkalinity into your digestive tract to promote healing. And so if you're putting in those acidic pesticides, that's counter to the point. But I think juicing celery is great, or celery is great, but juicing is just a really high density solution of nutrients, rich nutrients and minerals in the celery. So what I would recommend if you want to try juicing celery is to juice about 10 ounces of celery first thing in the morning and just sip on it over the course of 10 or 15 minutes. So you're really kind of saturating, as opposed to just chugging it and getting into the gut, which is going to be good for the gut lining. But we're trying to really expose the tissues of the esophagus, particularly if you have esophagitis or Barrett's, any of these esophageal disorders. But we want to really expose the tissues of the esophagus to that alkalinity, expose the lower esophageal sphincter to that alkalinity to promote healing of the tissue. So I'm all for celery juice just because so many people have really given great testimonies about the healing properties of that. And if you don't like celery juice, it's not very tasty. You could try cucumber juice. It's also highly alkaline. It's cool. Again, some people say, oh, I can't do cucumbers. It's bad for my reflux. So if that's the case, obviously don't do it. But one thing you can try is to make sure that you peel your cucumber first before you put it into the juicer, because it may not be the cucumber. Cucumber is highly alkalizing, highly cooling, highly anti-inflammatory. So it's hard for me to believe that it would be a trigger. It may be, I'm not saying it's not, but it may be a chemical residue on the skin of that cucumber going through the juicer. That may be what's triggering you. It may not be the actual cucumber. So try peeling your cucumbers and putting them through the juicer. Carrots are great. Greens are great, like kale, collards, and spinach. So this is what I put into my Three's Company green smoothie. Kale, collards, or spinach, a combination or any of the above. Greens are highly alkaline, highly rich in minerals, highly rich in vitamins, antioxidants, and I highly encourage you, for those of you that are the cucumber seeds. So yeah, you can scrape the seeds out as well. Thanks, that's a good point, Christine. But with the greens, I highly encourage you to get in greens every day. Have a salad every day, throw a handful into your smoothie, put them on your sandwiches, however you can. Try to get some kind of greens in every day. And that includes broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage. Those are greens as well. Well, cauliflower is not. These are your cruciferous vegetables, including, what do they call, Brussels sprouts. Some people can't tolerate the cruciferous vegetables, and that's not because they're necessarily a trigger food, but because they can create a gaseous response, which can create bloating, which can put pressure on the LES. And then fennel, leeks, and sweet peppers. So leeks and sweet peppers, a lot of people ask me, why do you include leeks and sweet peppers in your recipes? It's because when it comes to onions and garlics, which are a big no-no for people with reflux, they're a really common major trigger for people with reflux, especially raw onion and garlics. It's because of the carminative effects that are in, or the carminative properties that are in those foods. Leeks, on the other hand, have negligible, just very, very minimal carminative properties in leeks. So a lot of people most people can tolerate leeks, especially if they're cooked. So we replace our leeks with onions, and you can replace your garlic with fennel. Fennel doesn't taste anything like garlic, but it just adds something in to give a new and unique flavor to your dish other than the garlic. And then the same thing with sweet peppers. So sweet bell peppers, particularly the red and orange variety, your peppers, like your hot peppers, have, they have a heat to them that can burn and irritate the tissues and be a trigger. Sweet bell peppers, especially the red ones and the orange ones, they're very, very small amounts of that heat in them. So most people do fine with the sweet bell peppers, especially if they're cooked. Again, cucumber, mushrooms. I love portobello mushrooms, and then I buy the little buttons or the creminis just because that's what's available and affordable where I'm at. So that's what I get. But if you love mushrooms, there's certainly a huge variety of mushrooms in the fungi world. So experiment and use the mushrooms that you love and that are available to you wherever you are. Same thing with salad greens. We already talked about kale, collards, and spinach, but then salad greens would be more like your romaines and all of the other types of greens that you might make a salad with or put on your sandwich. You do want to avoid arugula. That can be a trigger because it's got a little bit of a spiciness to it. Some people do fine with arugula, some people don't. So if you're eating greens and it's setting you off and you can't figure out why, there might be, you can buy like these, I know I keep saying mixed greens. Like this one just has red butter, lettuce, and spinach in it. So you want to look on the ingredients there if you're trying to avoid arugula. A lot of times they sneak it into these greens mixes. And then corn. So you can get fresh corn, canned corn, frozen corn. I do keep frozen corn or canned corn in my pantry because I pick it up when it goes on sale. I just try to, watch the ingredients, make sure there's not any preservatives in there, make sure you get the non-PVA can. But my favorite thing to do is to buy organic corn in the freezer section, the big bags, like I get mine at Costco, so it's the big bag. That way I can just measure out what I want if I'm just making a small bowl of soup instead of a big pot of soup. The corn chowder in this cookbook is probably one of my favorite recipes in this cookbook. In the winter, I make it every single week, sometimes twice a week. I absolutely love it. And some people think, well, isn't corn like bad for you? Some people think that because a lot of corn is GMO, corn is high in sugar, and it's a common food allergen. So some people are allergic to corn. I would say in general, if you know that you're not allergic to it, I would say it's a highly nutritious food. It's a highly nutritious food. It's full of nutrition. It's got natural sugar in it, again, so it's giving you energy, it's giving you calories, it's giving you life. You just want to make sure it's organic, and typically when you're buying food-grade corn, it is organic. Like the GMO, usually that's the stuff that they make for fuel or to feed, livestock, or to put into processed foods as an ingredient. But when you're buying a can of corn or frozen corn, it usually is not GMO, but all you have to do is look at the label. If you're trying to avoid genetically modified foods, which I would encourage you to avoid genetically modified foods. But in my opinion, corn is great, and I use it in several of my recipes. Squash is another great one. My butternut squash recipe, soup recipe is in here, but you don't even have to use butternut squash. You can use whatever squash you love and is available to you. Maybe you grow it in your garden, and you can bake it and put it in your blender, put it in your soup, blend it, and make a beautiful soup. I like Japanese sweet potatoes. So sweet potatoes and yams in general are usually great for people with reflux, and you can do a variety of things with them. I actually learned about Japanese sweet potatoes just like in the last couple of years because my local co-op has them, and my other Fred Meyer and Safeway doesn't have them available, but the co-op does. And the first time I tried them, I couldn't quite figure out what it reminded me of. It has a very unique texture. And then I figured it has a similar texture to it. So now when I make lasagna, I thin slice my Japanese sweet potato in my mandolin, and I layer that in with my lasagna noodles and my mushrooms and my sauce and whatever I put in there. And it's wonderful. It's really wonderful. So if you haven't tried Japanese sweet potatoes, and they're in my wild rice and mushroom soup that's in the cookbook, the Japanese sweet potato. But you can substitute regular sweet potato as well. Zucchini squash is great, and then olives. I got black olives, Kalamata olives. Some people can't tolerate olives because they are more of a fermented, vinegary type food, and they are a high fat food. So it's not on the common triggers list for reflux, but I know that some of you cannot tolerate olives. So obviously you're going to want to avoid those if that's the case. And then artichokes in water, same thing. Those are great to throw onto a pizza or into a salad. And then herbs and seasonings, and this is really important because on this particular diet, a lot of the food can seem bland if you're cutting out meat, dairy, and eggs for the first time. If you're cutting out, cheese for the first time, like a pizza without cheese might just sound like a mortal sin to you, and it might taste really, really bland. But if you really start experimenting with some of these different herbs and seasonings, that will really add a lot more flavor to your food. Unfortunately, you are somewhat limited because you have to avoid the spicier spices, right? So fresh herbs like cilantro, basil, and flat leaf parsley are great. They add a lot of fresh flavor, and they're very good at detoxifying, particularly any heavy metals in the body. They cling to those toxins and help deliver them out of the body. So your fresh green herbs like cilantro, flat leaf parsley, and basil are great for that. And if you can start incorporating those in, that's wonderful. And then as far as the seasonings go, I do use cumin, dry oregano, coriander, Italian seasoning blends, or herb de Provence blend, and then salt. So you want to get a good quality salt, whether it's a Celtic salt or a Himalayan salt, it doesn't matter. But you want to get a good quality salt. And if you're worried about iodine, you can buy like a Himalayan salt that is fortified with iodine. Those are available. You might have to order it online, but those are available. And then sumac, which we've talked about before. Now grains, I am a big proponent and a big fan and a big encourager of eating lots and lots of grains. Grains and greens every day, grains and greens. Grains are filling, they have bulk, they're fibrous, and they're great for health. You may hear to the contrary because there have been trends in the last several years that are very anti-grains. It started out with gluten, which I understand some people are sensitive to gluten and can't do gluten. I get that. But it started out with gluten, corn, which again, some people are allergic to corn. And then it just became this whole thing where like all grains are bad, no oats, no rice, no farro, no spelt, no nothing. They're all bad. They're all poisonous. I don't agree with that personally. If that's where you stand, you can still get away with a plant-based diet. You're going to have to really depend on things like potatoes, to be your main kind of bulky, starchy food, or just eating very high volume of food. It makes it a little bit harder if you're not doing any grains. I mean, here with this, the rice is the bulk of the sushi. It's the bulk of the calories. It's the bulk of it's what's filling, right? It's what fills you up. So I've got on here oats or other breakfast grains, pasta. I particularly use linguine and fettuccine in the cookbook. And I always say try to get organic pasta when you can. Whole grain pasta is great. I like plain semolina pasta, which is a processed pasta. I'll do, I like whole grain brown pasta and regular semolina pasta. That's what I like. You know what? There's a real wide variety of other kinds. There's corn pasta, there's rice pasta, there's lentil pasta, there's all kinds of alternative pastas on the market today. And I've tried many of them, and I don't care for a lot of them. I do like the corn pasta. And in fact, when I first became vegan, that's all I ate was corn pasta because I was vegan and gluten-free for the first 60 days. And then I started slowly reintroducing grains, and I did fine. So I just, through that experiment, I found out that grains were not an issue for me. They probably never were. My issues lied more in, my hiatal hernia for one, and then just the poor condition of my gut based on a lifetime of medications, antibiotics, so a dysbiosis that was occurring in my gut. So I really needed to heal my gut, reestablish gut flora, and reverse my hiatal hernia. And now I can eat, I always say I can eat anything I want, but I don't eat meat, dairy, and eggs because I am vegan. I don't eat a lot of spicy foods because I've never cared for spicy foods. So, and I don't drink a lot of alcohol because I've never cared for alcohol, really. So, but occasionally, like this week, I drank quite a bit of alcohol, actually, and I did fine. I didn't have any digestive issues. So, but that comes from long-term care for your digestive health. Long-term care, really reestablishing good diversity of gut flora, reestablishing good, strong, healthy stomach acid, reestablishing good, strong gut lining, which means you're not going to have that permeability that creates leakage in the intestines. So this has been ongoing for years, and now I have really good, healthy digestion, and you can too. Okay. And then breads, wild rice, regular rice, your favorite whole grain bread. I personally really like Dave's Killer Bread. They have a variety of breads. They're delicious. They're filled with organic grains. Where can you go wrong? If you're sensitive to grains or sensitive to gluten, I'm sure they have a gluten-free variety. That's what I like. And then I love ciabatta rolls. That's one of my guilty pleasures. Ciabatta is a very Tuscan, kind of an artisan, kind of a crisp on the outside and chewy bread, and that's what I use to make a lot of my sandwiches, particularly my portobello burger, or if I'm doing like a garden burger or a chicken burger, or like a lot of times when I go to a potluck or a barbecue, I'll take my own ciabatta rolls. I'll take my own, like store-bought chicken patties that are vegan, or a garden burger or something like that. So I have something to throw onto the grill while I'm there, and it just makes it fun. So, and then finally, not finally, I guess I have two more categories, is your legumes or your beans. So again, you can do the dried variety if you want to soak, and it's not hard to soak and cook your beans. Really, it's as hard as putting your beans in a pot, covering them with water, putting a lid on it the night before you go to bed, and just letting it soak overnight, and then you drain them, rinse them, and they're ready to go the next day. I'm lazy though. I just stock up on canned beans. Again, I look at the ingredients, make sure that there's as few ingredients as possible, make sure it's a PBA-free can, make sure they're organic. And I just keep a variety. I like pinto beans, I like black beans, I like black-eyed peas, I like chickpeas. I make my hummus and my chili with chickpeas, and I like white beans, which also go into my chili. So those are some of the things that you'll need for this cookbook. And then nuts and seeds, we've already gone over that. Walnuts, almonds, cashews, Brazil nuts, sunflower, pumpkin, sesame, flaxseed, chia seed, hemp seed. So again, I just really encourage you to keep a variety of these in your freezer or your refrigerator so that you're getting those good healthy fats in. And you just need a little bit every day. You don't need a lot. In fact, if you eat a lot, you may be sorry. Because they are a higher fat food, and it's typically the higher fat foods that can cause issues with reflux. So we're trying to avoid those higher fat foods. But if you're just having a palm full of nuts, or if you're making a cheese sauce with cashews and spreading that on your pizza or whatever, that's, it's not like you're eating a whole bag of almonds, which is really easy to do if you sit down and you're hungry with a whole bag of almonds or pistachios. You might eat the whole thing. Okay, and then other on my list for this cookbook are active dry yeast to make the pizza dough, nutritional yeast, which is in a lot of recipes, dried mushrooms for making the mushroom stock, which is a recipe in the cookbook, Bragg's liquid aminos, date sugar, 100% pure maple syrup, raisins, tahini, which is a sesame seed butter or paste that I make my dressings out of for my Mexican dishes and salads. The sushi wraps, the nori sushi wraps. This one is, I've already talked about these before. These are expensive. You get 10 in a pack, and I think they're like $8.99 at my local co-op. And these you can order on Amazon, and you get 50 sheets in a pack. They're delicious, they're organic, they're roasted, and I think they're like $14 or $15 for 50 sheets. So if you know you love sushi and you're going to be making a lot of sushi, or if you have a big family, order these on Amazon. I'll show them to you one more time. They're the organic one. Organic roasted seaweed premium nori sheets. 50 in the bag, and it's just one big bag. And so then the last one is non-dairy milks. There's a whole variety of non-dairy milks. So if you're new to the plant-based world, you just want to start trying different milks and figure out which ones you like. I use a variety of milks. My favorite is soy, like if I'm putting a little bit of milk in my coffee or on my oats, my fruit, like on my blueberries. I love soy. That's my go-to. But if I'm doing, a soup, I like to do coconut milk because it's richer and creamier and thicker and gives it really it's got a full fatness to it, so it just gives it a richness. So, all right, so that's the shopping list, guys. So again, that is in the cookbook, but it's also free in the files section of the Planti Reflex Facebook group. So I didn't see any questions today unless I missed them. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you right back here again next Tuesday. Thanks for watching.